Did you try the problems that are there, 13 to 16? So out of those problems, is there any doubt? If so, let me know in the chat box also, that's fine.
Yes, sir.
No? Okay. So I'll just give 30 seconds time. If anyone is having a doubt, let me know. Okay. Then we'll go to the next topic. So take your notes and write down. The heading is Rolle's theorem. ROLLES, Rolle's, ROLLE apostrophe S, Rolle's theorem. Let's read out what the statement means. Okay. 1 minute. So before we proceed to the theorem, can someone tell me what is the meaning of differentiation? So why do we differentiate? By differentiating a particular function, what is that we are obtaining?
Slope.
Sorry?
Slope.
Slope of what?
Slope of the function.
It can be slope of the function. Okay, you can actually say slope of the tangent to the function at that point. Okay, that is the meaning. So good. Okay, so slope is the right answer. Okay. So remember one thing, for any function to be differentiable, okay, when I say differentiable, what is the meaning? Its left hand derivative should be equal to the right hand derivative, should be equal to the exact derivative. If a function has to be differentiable at a given point, a function has to be differentiable at a given point, it is supposed to be continuous at that point. That is the first condition that needs to get satisfied. Okay, so let it be any function for that matter. Now the question is, what does Rolle's theorem state? The statement is like this. So if you have a function f in your hand, if you have the textbooks, you can keep page number 184 open. So in your textbook, page 184, keep it open. So if there is a function f which is defined in the which is defined from the closed interval ab to any real number, if it is a continuous function throughout its domain, okay, this a to b is going to be the domain and r is going to be the range. This we know, right? So f is mapped from a to b, a is going to be the domain, r is the b is the range. So if it is continuous throughout its domain and it is differentiable on the open interval a to b, the sense it is differentiable on the right of a and the left of b. Okay, we are taking such conditions. So what are the two conditions that are getting satisfied? So the statement is like this. The heading is Rolle's theorem. Make a note of it. Rolle's theorem. So the statement is like this. There is a function f mapped from a to b. Sorry. There is a function f mapped from a comma b to any real number. So it's a real valued function. It is continuous. The first point, it is continuous in the interval, continuous on the points a to b, closed interval a to b. Second, since it is continuous everywhere, it should be differentiable. I'm not saying it could be differentiable. It need not be. It is not necessary that every continuous function needs to be differentiable at a given point. Here, we are saying that both the conditions are getting satisfied. It is continuous as well as differentiable. But for the differentiability, the range is changing. The range of the domain is changing. It is differentiable on the interval, open interval a to b. And the third condition is if f of a is equal to f of b. If these three conditions are satisfied for the given function where a and b are some real numbers, then what you can conclude is then there exists some c, okay, where is that c going to be? In the open interval a to b. That is between a and b you can find a number c such that f dash of c is equal to 0. So this is what the Rolle's theorem states. Okay. And one more point I would like to stress here is, wherever you see this f dash of x is equal to 0, this condition is called as the condition of maxima or minima. You learn about this in the next chapter, that is the applications of derivatives. As of now, have this point in your mind. If I say f dash of c is equal to 0, then that point can either be the maximum point that is attained by the curve or the minimum point attained by the curve. That is the condition for maxima or minima. Okay. So is it clear till this step? If there is any doubt, let me know, or else we can proceed.
No doubt.
Okay. So let's try to visualize it graphically. Okay. So what are the three conditions to be satisfied? It has to be continuous, right? So I'm taking a graph like this, x comma y. Between x and y, I'm taking a graph in this way. There's one of the graphs, or I can think of a graph like this. For example, you can think of some trigonometric function. If I think of a graph like this, first let me explain the first one. So this is x and this is y. First thing you need to verify, you need to set the limit a and b. So this is the function f of x. So this is the function f of x, y is equal to f of x. This is a point A, this is a point B, this is a comma 0 and b comma 0. So the domain is going to be between a and b. Now what is going to be this point? So if this point is a comma 0, then this point will be a comma f of a. And this point will be b comma f of b. So what do you mean by f of a and f of b? They are nothing but the function values at the points a and b. So function value means this height. This height is what is f of a. This height is what is f of b, if you have to speak in terms of length. Okay. So if this kind of a condition is existing, okay, then what are the points to be satisfied? It has to be continuous in this interval. Yes, it is continuous, there is no break. It should be differentiable in the open interval a to b. So for that kind of a thing to happen, the function should keep going in one direction and it should come down in the other direction. That's what we call it as increasing and decreasing. Okay, it is able to be, that we'll see in the next chapter. Okay, as of now, accepted that the function is differentiable in this particular interval, in the open interval, that is right of a and left of b. If these two conditions are satisfied, then there will be existing some point which is between the points a and b, such that f dash of c is equal to 0. But what did I say f dash of c is? It is nothing but the condition of maximum or minimum. So in the beginning I asked you differentiate to find the slope of the tangent at that particular point. So at this point, if I draw a tangent, then this tangent will be parallel to the x-axis. So what is the slope of x-axis? It is going to be 0. So any line which is parallel to x-axis is going to have a slope as 0. But according to differentiation, slope is nothing but f dash of c. That is the meaning why we are saying f dash of c is equal to 0. That is what this theorem is all about. So in this theorem, what you are supposed to do is you need to prove all these conditions. Then you can say that Rolle's theorem is verified. I'll explain it with an example, don't worry about it. So I hope this part is clear. Similarly, what I will do is I will take this graph. The second graph, if you observe, this point is a comma 0 and this point is b comma 0. Between a and b, now what is happening is the function is decreasing. I'll use a different color. Observe, the function is decreasing from a till the particular point, then again it is increasing, then again it is increasing and then decreasing. So what can you say about this function is, this function is also continuous, there is no break in the graph. It is differentiable in the open interval a to b. Then with respect to this problem, what is happening is there are two c's where if you try to draw a tangent at that particular point, they are parallel to the x-axis. Okay, so this point is going to be c comma 0 and this point, it can be, so let me say this is c1 comma 0, then there is going to be c2 comma 0. There are 2 points of c existing between these two, a and b, such that f dash of c2 is equal to 0. Similarly, f dash of c1 is also equal to 0. Are you able to understand this point? So this is what is Rolle's theorem. Am I clear? So am I clear with all these points?
So, sir, can you just hold this graph from point?
Sure, sure. Can make a note of it.
Yes, done, sir.
Done. Okay. We'll proceed to an example. So once I explain how to solve Rolle's theorem, then I explain how to handle mean value theorem. These are the two theorems we are going to discuss today. So the question, look at the question on page 185, the example 42. They'll ask you the question saying, verify Rolle's theorem for the given function f of x. Okay, y is equal to x square plus 2. It is nothing but an upward parabola. Okay, y is equal to x square plus 2, and the value of a is given as minus 2, and the value of b is given as 2. So how to verify is the question 42, page 185. We know that y is equal to x square plus 2, and the value of a is minus 2, and the value of b is 2. Okay. So what is the first condition that needs to get satisfied? It should be continuous. Remember, all the polynomial functions are continuous in the real number system. So this function is continuous at all points. Remember, the statement I am writing is written by me, it is not given in the question. So we should know that it is continuous. So it is continuous at all points between the closed interval minus 2 to 2, because that is what we need to take for the Rolle's theorem. So what is the second condition to be satisfied? It should be differentiable. Yes, it is differentiable. So differentiable between the points minus 2 to 2 open interval. Okay. And the third, we need to verify f of a and f of b. So what is f of a? What is f of minus 2? That is going to be minus 2 the whole square plus 2. That is going to be 6. Right? Similarly, what is f of 2? F of 2 is 2 the whole square plus 2. That is also 6. Since f of a is equal to f of b, since all the three conditions are getting satisfied, then we should prove that there is going to be some number which is between the values minus 2 and 2 that is going to exist for this particular function, such that f dash of c is equal to 0. Okay. So what we need to do is f of x is x square plus 2. F dash of x will be 2x. If I equate f dash of x to 0, then what is the value of x I am getting? X is equal to 0. This x is equal to 0 is the point C. Now tell me one thing, is this point C lying between minus 2 and 2? Obviously, yes. Right? Between minus 2 and 2, this point 0 is there. So this point is C, which is existing. Since C is equal to 0 is existing between minus 2 and 2, Rolle's theorem is verified. The Rolle's theorem is verified only because these three conditions are satisfied, and at the same time you are able to find a point C which is lying between minus 2 and 2 also. So this is the whole concept. Okay? So you can make a note of it. Done? So we'll move on to the next concept. That is mean value theorem. So write down the heading as mean value theorem. So the mean value theorem is almost similar to Rolle's theorem, except the fact that f of a will not be equal to f of b. So mean value theorem should be dealt when the f of a value, the extreme values of the function are not equal. That is the meaning. Okay. How to solve this? So let's look at the theorem. If you look at the statements, it is almost the same. So let f be a function defined from the closed interval a to b to some real number, be a continuous function on the closed interval a to b, and differentiable on the open interval a to b. Till here they both mean the same. Then there exists some point c in the interval a comma b such that f dash of c is equal to f of b minus f of a divided by b minus a. I will explain what it is. Okay. So here for mean value theorem, let's say in a question they are asking you, verify mean value theorem for this function. Then what are the conditions to be satisfied? If f is a function mapped from the closed interval a to b to R, is continuous in the closed interval a to b and differentiable on open interval a to b. These are the two conditions to be satisfied. Here f of a will not be equal to f of b. Then
Sir,
there,
isn't it the same as the previous Rolle's theorem? Then
sorry, so I didn't get you.
they are mostly the same conditions, sir.
No, mostly the same
Continuous.
condition. Mostly the same condition, except what fact? F of a will not be equal to f of b. Like
Okay,
I'll take. Once I finish this, you will understand how these two theorems are related. Okay.
okay, sir.
Yeah. Then there exists a point C where. So where should this point C be? Then there exists a point C between the open interval a to b, because they cannot be, C cannot be equal to a nor it cannot be equal to b. That is why it is open interval a to b, such that f dash of C will be equal to, 1 minute, such that f dash of C will be equal to f of b minus f of a the whole divided by b minus a. This is the condition that is going to get satisfied. Why it is so, we will look at the diagram and try to understand. So let's say you have a function like this. I'm taking this point to be a and this point to be b. So these are the two extreme points that are defined in the domain of the function. And let this function be y is equal to f of x. Okay. Now I'm able to look at the graph that it is continuous in, and yes, it is differentiable also. So between a and b, let me say there is some random point c existing already. Okay, there is some random point C that is already existing, such that at this point C, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a tangent. So when I draw a tangent, okay, then f dash of C will give me the slope of this tangent. Will give me the slope of tangent at which point? At C. I got it. Now the question is, what is this point? It is a comma f of a. And what is this point? It is b comma f of b. Remember, f of a is the y value of for the xa. Similarly, f of b is the y value for the value of xb. Right. Now, if I join these 2 points, then what does it form? It forms a secant. Right. With a perfect length, it is going to form a chord. If you extend it, it is going to form a secant. Now, if I ask you a question, what is the slope of secant, or slope of the secant AB? Then what are you going to say? Slope of the secant AB will be equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. This is known factor. So y2 is f of b and y1 is f of a, the whole divided by b minus a. So this is going to be the slope of the tangent. So what does it mean? If I write f of b minus f of a divided by b minus a is equal to f dash of c, then what does this literally mean? When can two slopes be equal? So when can two slopes be equal?
Parallel, when they are parallel.
That's it. That's the answer. So what we are trying to say is there will be some point C in between A and B, where at that point, if you draw a tangent, the tangent will be exactly parallel to that secant. That is what the mean value theorem states. That is why you see mathematically f dash of C is nothing but f of B minus f of A divided by B minus A. Now, a special case of mean value theorem is what is Rolle's theorem. Special case. So what is special case? When f of A equal to f of B. Right, this is the only thing that is missing between Rolle's theorem and mean value theorem. If f of A is equal to f of B is satisfied, it becomes Rolle's theorem. Now, if I take this and substitute it in the above equation, then what will happen? F of B minus f of A, they will get cancelled and that will come out as 0. This is not what we studied in Rolle's theorem. Right. So, first is this mean value theorem. The special case of this mean value theorem is what is called as the Rolle's theorem. I hope you are able to understand this. So if you ask me why we are studying all these things, these are all one of the ways of testing the slope of tangents at different points. Okay, there are certain conditions that we are able to learn. Okay, so I hope it's clear. So I'll just give you 2 minutes time. You can copy this. So put the heading as mean value theorem and copy this. Yeah, it's done. Now we'll do a problem based on verifying mean value theorem. So that is problem example 43. So example 43 in page 185. Okay. So verify mean value theorem for the function f of x is equal to x square in the interval 2, 4. Okay. The function f of, so what we are supposed to do is we need to verify all those things. So f of x is continuous because it's a polynomial function. F of x is continuous in the closed interval 2 to 4. Second, it is differentiable in open interval 2 to 4. Then let us do one thing. Let us differentiate this f dash of x. Then f dash of x will be equal to 2x. So this is in the open interval 2 to 4. What is that we are supposed to do? We are supposed to say that there is going to be some value of c that is lying between which two values? There is some value of c that is going to lie between 2 and 4 such that f dash of that value will be equal to f of b minus f of a divided by b minus a. Now what is the value of f of b minus f of a? So let me take this as 1. So what is f of b minus f of a divided by b minus a? So f of b is f of 4. F of 4 is 16. F of a is 4. F of b minus f of a divided by b minus a. So what is f of b? F of 4 is 16 minus 4 divided by, it is going to be 2. So 12 divided by 2, it is going to be 6. Now what I'm going to do is, I will equate this f dash of x to 6. Because f dash of x should be, f dash of c should be equal to f of b minus f of a by b minus a. If I equate it to 6, then I will get 2x is equal to 6, which implies x is equal to 3. Now I need to verify whether this value of x is equal to 3 is lying in the domain that is given to us. So the domain that is given is 2 to 4. So obviously 3 is going to be a number in between them. Hence, mean value theorem is verified. So mean value theorem, we can write it as MVT is verified. Simple, right?
Sir,
Yeah,
Sir,
tell me.
sir, in while verifying, we'll be checking that by taking the interval in closed interval, sir.
Which one you're
X
see?
equal to 3.
While you're checking the continuity, closed interval, differentiability, open interval.
Okay. Then
sir,
that x is equal to 3, that we get at last.
Now x is equal to 3 is a point that is lying between 2 and 4. Where if you do, see what is f dash of 3? F dash of 3 for this function is 2x, so 2 into 3, that is 6. Okay. What is the slope of the chord that is joining the endpoints of the curve? The starting point of the curve is 2, ending point of the curve is 4. So f of 4 minus f of 2 divided by 4 minus 2, what did this give us? This also gave us 6. Now the question is, if you want to visualize it graphically, I'll show you. Y is equal to x square is a graph like this. So y is equal to x square. Can you tell me what parabola it is?
Upward.
It's an upward parabola. So for an upward parabola like this, between the point 2 and 4 somewhere over here, what I can say is 2 and 4 here, there is a point C where if I try to draw a tangent, this tangent will be parallel to this.
Okay.
I'll zoom and show you.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes.
this point, you are able to visualize it?
Yes,
That is the
sir.
meaning of mean value. So what is missing here is for others, that is this value, the function values will not be the same. One will be small and one will be big. This kind of a function is called as strictly increasing function.
Yes, sir.
Okay, about increasing and decreasing we'll learn in the next chapter.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Any other doubt?
sir,
Yeah, tell me.
sir. Can you explain once again why you're equating f dash of x to 6?
Okay, it is nothing but I'm trying to find the slope of the line joining the extreme points. Okay.
Okay.
So if you visualize this graph, what is this point? Can you tell me if I take the point, this point as A and this point as B, what are the coordinates of point A?
2 comma f dash of
2 comma f of 2. It is not
f
f
of
dash.
2.
F dash
F of
f
2.
of 2 is how much for this problem? F of x is x square.
F of 2 is 4.
F of 2 is 4. Similarly, coordinates of point B.
4 comma 16.
Now, this is A, this is f of A, this is B, this is f of B. If I ask you what is slope of AB?
Okay, 16 minus 2 by 4 minus 4.
So 16 minus 4 by 4 minus
4
2, that
by
is going to
4
be
minus 2.
12 divided by
12
2,
by
that is going to be 6. Okay, see, now visualize what I am going to do is, I'll experimentally, let me say the graph is this big. Okay, I've tried to zoom it. I'm saying I'm zooming it. So, 3, according to the question, when I differentiated f dash of x, I got it as 2x. If I equate this 2x to 6 I got it because of this number. This is a guess. Because I tried to find what is the slope of the line joining the extreme points. If I equate it to 6, I checked what is the point at which it is parallel to the already existing slope. So x is equal to 3 is the point that is going to exist between 2 and 4. Okay, I'll show you an extension of it. See, this 3 is there. Now I drew a tangent here. In a similar way, I'll take another page. Wait. So I take this graph. Okay, y is equal to x square is like this. Let me say this is 2 and this is 4.
Hmm.
So 2 and 4. At the point C, I draw the tangent. See, between 2 and 4, how many such tangents can I draw?
Infinite.
Infinite number, right? I can draw a tangent like this. I can draw a tangent like
Yeah.
this. I can draw.
Yeah.
But if you draw all
Yeah.
those infinite tangents, out of those infinite tangents, there will be only one tangent that is going to be parallel to this secant.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
You are able to understand. So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
need to find whether the tangent which is parallel at a given point, the point that we are finding is lying between 2 and 4 or not. That is what we are trying to find.
Okay.
If it is lying between this, if it is lying between 2 and 4, yes, the mean value theorem is verified. For example, if the same question was between 2 and if I have something else, okay, I did f dash of x, I had 2x. If I equate 2x to 6, okay, I'm getting, let's say, if let's say I'm getting f dash of x as 6x, some hypothetical case, okay. If I equate, I will get the value of x is equal to 1. So this is the value of c is equal to 1. But is this value lying between 2 and 4?
No.
No, then the mean value theorem is not verified.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, sir.
means what I'm trying to conclude is you need to find the slope of the line joining the extreme points. You should differentiate and equate it to this particular slope. And when you do that, when you solve for x, if the value of x is coming between the given values of the domain, yes, mean value theorem is verified. If it is outside of it, it is not verified. As simple as that.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Sir,
Yeah, tell me.
sir, if in the question they have given an open interval,
Okay.
then
Open interval will not be given. You cannot verify.
it won't be.
Because you can't do it because see, for example, if they give you open interval -4 comma 2 and they are asking you to verify the Rolle's theorem, okay, so you need to prove the Rolle's theorem. For you to prove the Rolle's theorem, what are the conditions? The function value at the extreme points are supposed to be equal. F of -4 should be equal to f of 2. But when it is an open interval, there is no question of you defining f of -4 at all.
Okay.
How will you define the function value for the value which is not existing? So they will not give you an open interval, closed interval. So that's why I'm saying continuity to exist, you need a closed interval. For differentiability to exist, you need an open interval.
Fine.
That's
Okay.
it. Yeah. I hope it is clear. Can we try 2 more problems? Then we can go to the. Actually, I can start the next chapter. I can give you the introduction so that you can practice 2 exercises by next week. So let's do some problems from exercise 5.8. Okay. So I'll just do one problem which is based on Rolle's theorem, one problem which is based on mean value theorem. Then we'll go to the next chapter. So first one, can someone tell me verify Rolle's theorem for the function f of x is equal to x square plus 2x minus 8, where x belongs to minus 2 to, sorry, minus 4 to 2. I think you can do it. I'll just give you 3 minutes time, finish it off. While you're doing, if you get any doubt, let me know. Done?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So what is the value of c you got, Varun?
-1.
-1. Okay. So you would have done f dash of x, that is nothing but 2x plus 2 is yes. So x is equal to -1. Since -1 is existing between -4 and 2, it should have satisfied. Did you see one thing is clear? The function is continuous because it's a polynomial function. It is going to be differentiable as well. Now what is f of -2? Sorry, f of -4 is how much? How much is that you got? 16 minus 8 minus 8.
-8 -0.
F of 2 is how much?
0.
0. I think when you factorize it, you will get it as x minus 1. So it is 0. So since f of a is equal to f of b, it is continuous as well as it is differentiable, then you are able to prove that there is a point c which is equal to -1 existing. Good. So I'll do the next one. Observe. See, I just have a few questions about the function that is given there. So f of x is equal to, look at the first function. Can someone tell me what function is that?
Greatest integer function.
So what do you mean by greatest integer function? So f of x is equal to mod x, sorry, greatest integer of x. Okay, I'll ask you with an example then. Say suppose I want to find the greatest integer of 2.5. Well, then what is the answer?
It's 2.
2.
Is it 2 or 3? You are saying greatest integer means it should be 3.
2, sir.
2.
2 is within 2.5. 2.
2, okay. So if I ask you a question minus 2.5, then what is the answer?
-3.
Minus
Minus
-3.
minus 3.
Okay, that's good. So for those who don't have idea about greatest integer function, observe this. So the greatest integer of 2.5 means how you are supposed to do it. Any number, guys, you can mute yourself. Any number can be written as a sum of an integer and a fractional value. Okay, I can either write it as sum of integer and fractional value, or some difference of integer and a fractional value. For example, I can write 2.5 as 2 plus 0.5, or I can write it as 3 minus 0.5. So they both give me the same value. So if I ask you what is the greatest integer of this, then for any value, right, you will have a part called as an integer part, which is represented by the symbol I, and you have another part called as the fractional part. Similarly, this is going to be the integral part, and this is going to be the fractional part. Whenever you're trying to find the greatest integer, you need to ensure one thing, that the fractional part is always supposed to be positive. Please make a note of it. So when you're splitting and writing the given number, right, when you're writing it as an integer plus the fractional part, you need to ensure that the fractional part is always positive. If that is happening, then the integer corresponding to that particular term is what is going to be the greatest integer. So 2 will be the answer. If you have a confusion of 3, by now it should have been clear. Since the fractional part is having a negative value, you cannot write it as 3, you have to write it as 2 only. In a similar way, when I take minus 2.5, then what do I get? I can either write it as minus 2 minus 0.5 or 3 minus 3 plus 0.5. I can write it as minus 3 plus 0.5. If I take the greatest integer of this, what is that I need to verify? I need to verify the fractional part. So since the fractional part here is negative, I will not take this into consideration. So minus 3 is going to be my answer. Okay. If you have to look at the graph of the greatest integer function, it looks like steps. So greatest integer function looks like steps. So it will be like this. The greatest integer of 0 is 0. The greatest integer of 0.1 is 0. It keeps on going, and you will have an open circle at the point 1, 0. So at every integer, no, it has a break, it has a discontinuity, and again it will start from here. So greatest integer of 1 is 1, greatest integer of 1.01 is 1, it keeps on going till where? Till it keeps going till
2.
2. After that, what will happen? From 2 it start, we go till 3. This is how the graph will look like. Okay. Now, for this kind of a function, they have given f of x is equal to greatest integer of x. So between the values x is x that belongs to 5 to 9, tell me, will we be able to verify the Rolle's theorem for this? What are the first and the foremost condition for Rolle's theorem to verify?
Continuity.
It should be continuous, right? First of all, the continuity concept is failing. So, since f of x is equal to greatest integer of x is discontinuous at which points?
All in.
It's discontinuous at all integral points, or we can call it as integers. At all integral points, the function Rolle's theorem cannot be verified. That's it, as simple as that. So whichever function is discontinuous, theorem is ruled out. So for this, what you need to do is, this might be a 1 mark question. They'll just ask you, you have to write, since it is not continuous, it is not verified. Similar is the case for the next one, between -2 to 2. Am I right? So between -2 to 2 also it is going to be discontinuous. So can we do for the third one? So what is the third one? F of x is equal to x square minus 1. So can we do it for this one, for all values of x that belongs to closed interval 1 to 2? Will we be able to verify? So what is f of 1? F of 1 is 0. F of 2 is equal to 3. So what can you say from this? Since f of 1 is not equal to f of 2, Rolle's theorem will fail here also. Though it is a continuous function because it's a polynomial function, it is a differentiable function, but what is failing? F of 1 is not equal to f of 2. Hence, Rolle's theorem fails here. Right? You're able to understand?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now we'll do the third one. Third one is, mark it as important. It's a good question. So let's do the third problem. So what is the question saying? There is a function which is defined from -5 to 5. There is a function which is defined from -5 to 5, -5, to r. It's a differentiable function, and f dash of x does not vanish anywhere. What does it mean? What does it mean?
The function is continuous.
That's already given, no? If you see, when they are told f is differentiable function itself, when someone states differentiable, it means continuous also. But someone says continuous, it need not be differentiable. Make a note of it. Every continuous function need not be differentiable, but every differentiable function has to be continuous. So they'll not tell you separately. So
F dash of x not equal to 0.
That is the meaning. Very good. So f dash of x does not vanish means f dash of x is not equal to 0 anywhere in the domain. What is the domain? It is between -5 to 5. Then prove that f of -5 is not equal to f of 5. Okay. So since they have mentioned it is differentiable, the first condition is satisfied. F of x is continuous. Agreed. So f of x is continuous in the interval -5 to 5. Yes, because it is differentiable. Second, f of x is differentiable. That is already given in the question, in the open interval -5 to 5. Obviously, right? Now what is happening here is, if I need to define f of 5 minus f of -5, the whole divided by 5 minus 5, sorry, 5 minus of -5. You are able to understand what I am doing? What theorem did I write?
Value theorem.
Value theorem.
MBD.
So if I write it as f dash of c, okay, if I write it as f dash of c, since f dash of c is not equal to 0, then what I can conclude here is f of 5 is not equal to f of minus 5. So it can be equal to 0 only if the numerator terms are equal, right? Because they are subtracting them. Since f dash of c is not equal to 0 according to the question, as they say it does not vanish, then f of 5 is not equal to f of minus 5. So this is the proof. So that's it. Okay. So mark this as an important proof.
Sir,
Yeah, tell me.
sir, can you explain that last point, sir?
This one, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. See, I'm writing f of 5 minus f of minus 5 by 5 minus 5. F of b minus f of a by b minus a. I'm writing it equal to f dash of c. Okay. Since f dash of c is not equal to 0, is the question, because f dash of x is equal to 0 is what they have told. Read the question carefully. It does not vanish anywhere. This word anywhere is important because anywhere means it is in the domain. So c should be a point which is in the domain. So since f dash of c cannot be 0, had it been 0, okay, to avoid your confusion, had it been 0, then what can you say? Had it been 0, if this value had been 0, then I can say f of b is equal to f of a. Because that is in the numerator. So those values would have subtracted. Since this is not equal to 0, that means this value in the numerator is not equal to the f of minus 5 value in the numerator. That is the meaning.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
That is
sir.
what we need to prove. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hope things are clear. So these three problems I'm leaving it to you. 4, 5, and 6. Do them as homework. Now what I will do is I will explain you the concepts of the next chapter. Miscellaneous also I will tell you what all problems you can try. In the next class we will discuss whichever is stuff because I want to teach the concept for today. Okay. So we will go to the 6th chapter. Just give me a minute. I'll open my textbook. So we'll go to the 6th chapter. Yeah, tell me. Yeah, tell me. So the 6th chapter is named as Applications of Derivatives. Okay. So write down the heading. Chapter 6. Applications of derivatives. So I'm going to repeat the same question. Why do we differentiate? Obviously, it is to find the slope of the tangent to the curve at a given point. So, in this chapter, what we are going to do is, we will see what are all the different applications that you can apply in the real-time basis, okay, using the concept of slope of the tangent. And the first application of this is rate of change of quantities. See, somebody's mic is on. So rate of change of quantities. Okay. So physics students, science students, you would have learned this. For commerce, so this will be the first time you're going to learn. But it's simple, trust me, it's very easy. Okay. So rate, what does it mean? Those who know the answer should tell me. So what do you mean by rate?
Anything with respect to time.
So rate is anything that is changing with respect to time. So change WRT with respect to time is what is called as rate. So here when we are saying quantities, it can be any of the quantities like physical quantities, it can be speed, acceleration, velocity, or distance, anything of that sort. Okay. What we are going to do is in maths, we'll learn about the mathematical quantities. That is, we are going to learn in terms of x and y. We will not be using any physics terms. Okay. So rate of change of quantities. So change of something with respect to time is what is called as rate. Nothing outside this. If suppose I have y is equal to f of x, then if I want to find the rate at which y is changing, if you see a question, if they ask you what is the rate at which y is changing, then your work is to simply differentiate y with respect to time and then solve it. That's it. So this is all the introduction is. There is nothing much outside this. So the best way to learn this particular exercise is through solving the problems only. To solve the problem, you're going to get it. It's that simple. Okay. So let's see the example 1. So find the rate of change of area of a circle per second. See, sometimes what they will ask us, find the rate of change of area of a circle per length. They might ask you like that also. Sometimes you have to look at the units also. If they're asking per second, you need to differentiate it with respect to time. Okay. If they're asking you with respect to length, per length, then you need to differentiate with respect to length. Be careful. There's the only point I'm trying to stress on. So I'll directly do this problem. Observe this. Find the rate of change of the area of a circle per second with respect to its radius r when r is equal to 5. Okay, how to approach this? So first, what you need to do is, given a circle, right? So given is a circle. So what is the area of a circle? It is going to be pi r square. What is to be found? To find dA divided by dt. Okay. So what are the so how do I proceed? So since I know a is equal to pi r square, see, till now what you are doing is they gave you the functions like y is equal to f of x. So you could understand that y is dependent on x. Going forward, they'll not give you all those things. Instead of y, you will have a. You can either have area of a shape, you can have a volume of a shape, or anything of that sort. Okay, the one which is there on the left hand side is going to be the dependent variable, and the one which is there on the right hand side is going to be the independent variable. I hope you're able to understand. So in this question, I'm going to write it like this. I'm writing a modified equation. Observe, I'm writing a of r. It is not a into r. So what does this mean? So area of the circle is a function of r, meaning if you keep changing the value of r here, the area will also change with respect to time. Okay. So if you want to visualize this question, I'll first show you, then I will tell you what is the mathematical meaning of it. So let's say I have a circle in my hand. Okay. Okay. Let's say the circle is having a specific radius in the initial point. Okay. So what they are asking here is, find the rate at which the area of the circle is changing per second with respect to its radius, and you need to find the rate at which it is changing when the value of r is equal to 5 centimeter. So what they are asking is, let's say initially r is equal to 1 centimeter for the sake of understanding. So the r value that I've considered, let me take it as 1 centimeter. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to move this. See, what is happening? You're able to see something is happening here. What exactly is happening? Can someone tell me? So what am I doing by doing this?
Radius and the area is increasing.
I'm increasing the radius. Since area is dependent on the radius, the area is also simultaneously changing. So what is going to happen is, initially what did I start with? I started with 1 centimeter. Now let's say I'm moving it slowly. So when I'm moving it slowly, time is also running. Right? This is the second, let's say the radius is 2 centimeter. Third second, let's say the radius is 3 centimeter, 4 centimeter, 5 centimeter. Now when this is happening, what is the rate at which it is changing? The area is changing. So when the value of r is increased by 1 unit, what is the corresponding increase in the value of area? That is the meaning of this question. Are you able to visualize this question? Right? Rather than solving, I want you to think in these terms. Right? Am I clear, or is there anything complicated?
So yes, sir.
Clear?
Yes, sir.
Understood,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Okay, let's delete this. So if there is anything that is complicated, please let me know. So A of r is equal to pi r square. So I'm writing an extra step. So as the value of r is changing, the area is also changing simultaneously. Now what I'm going to do is I'll differentiate A with respect to time, because that is what they're asking me to find. So dA by dt is equal to pi into, pi is a constant. So I'm going to write this as d by dt of r square. Okay. So what is d by dt of r square? Pi into derivative of r square is going to be 2r into, I need to use chain rule because here the variable is r, but I'm differentiating with respect to time. So we need to use the chain rule. So 2r into dr divided by dt. Am I clear? So dA by dt is going to be this value. Okay. One small correction. I'm sorry, I read the question wrong. See, actually here in this question they have twisted the terms. Observe. Find the rate of change of area of a circle per second. No, area of a circle. Actually, it is with respect to the radius. Means the rate of change of area with respect to the radius. Means what I'm supposed to do is, so this dA by dt is there, no? This dt and dt will get cancelled. They are actually asking you what is dA by dr. So dA by dr is equal to 2 pi r. So dA by dr, you need to put a line like this. When like this, it means at. So dA by dr at r is equal to what value? 5 centimeter. That is going to be 10 pi. Okay. Always ensure you're writing the units. Okay. How to write the units is dA is measured in centimeter square per dr is actually measured in centimeter. The answer given there is wrong. If at all you are able to see, if at all in your book it is printed as 10 pi centimeter square per second, then it is wrong. It is 10 pi centimeter square per centimeter. Okay. So please be careful. There is a mistake here. It is 10 pi centimeter square per centimeter. Don't cancel the centimeter and centimeter. This unit is written to understand that area is changing with respect to radius. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Right? Okay. So please be careful this question with this question. So if you're clear, I'll do one more example so that you'll understand things better. Okay. So we'll go to the second one. So this is the first one. Let's look at example number 2. So what is example number 2? They're asking you, the volume of a cube is increasing at a rate of 9 cubic centimeters per second. So volume of the cube. So volume is equal to a cube. Let's say the side of the cube is a. Question completely. They are given dV divided by dt is how much? It is 9 cubic centimeter. You can either write it as cc or centimeter cube. They both mean the same. Okay, I'm writing it as cc. 9 cc per second. Okay. Now you should read the question carefully. When they say increasing, it should be a positive sign. If at all the question says decreasing, then you should write it as minus 9 cc per centimeter. First point to be noted. How fast is the surface area increasing when the length of an edge is 10 centimeters? So here he has told surface area, but they have not mentioned what surface area is taken into consideration. So what surface area should be taken? So if they have not mentioned anything about the surface area, you always take the total surface area into consideration. Don't take the lateral surface area. So for a cube of side A, what is going to be the surface area, the total surface area? 6a square. So what is to be found? ds by dt at which value? When the value of a is equal to 10 centimeter. This is what we need to find. Okay. So dv by dt is given as 9 cc per second, and we have assumed v is equal to a cube, where a is assumed to be the side. Then what I'm going to do here is observe. So how to approach this is, I'll write it from the beginning. Given dV by dt is 9 cc per second. Okay. To find S is equal to find ds by dt at A is equal to 10 centimeter. Okay, how to proceed is, let side of the cube be A centimeter. Since everything is in centimeter, I am taking it as A centimeter. That implies volume is equal to A cube. Right. From here, differentiating on both the sides, I will get dV by dt is equal to 3a square into dA divided by dt. Let this be equation number 1. Sorry, this is not equation number 1. Let me take the question itself as equation number 1, this as equation 2. So from 1 and 2, what is that you can conclude? From 1 and 2, in the place of dV by dt, I can write it as 9. So 9 is equal to 3a square into dA by dt, which implies dA by dt will be equal to 3 divided by a square, 3. So let this be step number 3. Is there any doubt to this step? Okay. Now, we know that S is equal to 6a square. So again, differentiating on both the sides, ds divided by dt will be equal to 12a into dA by dt. Okay, so this is what we need to find. So ds by dt, when the value of a is equal to 10, is equal to 12 into, in the place of a, I am writing it as 10. In the place of dA by dt, I am going to use 3 divided by a square. But what is a? A is again 10. So 3 divided by 10 square. This 10 and 10 will get cancelled. That will be 36 divided by 10, and answer will be 3.6. Since surface area is measured in centimeter square per time is measured in second, it is going to be 3.6 centimeter square per second. That is the answer. So am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'll give you a minute time. You can copy it. So I hope you're simultaneously copying it, everyone.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Sir, some notes I missed. Can you send the notes of today's class after class?
I'll do that.
Yeah, fine. No.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Thank you, sir. I'll copy it later.
Okay. That's better, no? If you have understood the problem, we'll go to the next one. Why to waste time? We'll do one last problem before winding up the session. The third problem. Let's try. Someone wants to try this? Want to try? So there is a stone which is dropped into a quiet lake. So we know that when stones are dropped into the lake, you start getting ripples, right, into a quiet lake, and waves move in circles at a speed of 4 centimeters per second. At the instant when the radius of the circular wave is 10 centimeters, how fast is the enclosed area increasing? It is similar to the first one, except the fact, instead of saying the radius of the circle and all those things, they have given some concept. Right? Anybody wants to try? So there is a stone drop and the waves move in a circle at a speed of 4 centimeters per second. So circles move at a speed of 4 centimeters per second, right? So what are all the parameters associated to a circle? If you have the area, it is going to be pi r square. So area is going to be pi r square. What are they asking? They are asking us to calculate the value of dA by dt. dA by dt is what we need to find. The question is, what is already given in the question? What do you mean by that speed? Can someone tell me?
dr by dt
That's
It is the radius. It is the radius at which. Yes, it is the rate at which the radius is increasing. So dr by dt is given as 4 centimeters per second. As I told you, sometimes you look at the unit, will get an idea. Here, radius is the length, area is the length square. Correct? So centimeter is the unit of length. So dr by dt is 4 centimeter. Then we know that area is equal to pi r square. So differentiating on both the sides, dA by dt, you will get it as 2 pi r into dr divided by dt. So dA by dt is to be found at which value of r? 10 centimeter, right?
10 centimeter.
Yeah. So dA by dt, put a line at r is equal to 10 centimeter is equal to 2 pi into, what is the value of r? It is 10 into dr by dt is going to be how much? 4. So 4 into 10, it is going to be 80 pi centimeter square per second. That is the answer. Okay, never forget to write the units. Easy, right? I hope things are easy. See, these problems are not there. In the 5th one, 6th one, there are certain problems which are not there in your syllabus. The cost-based problems are not there. You have all related only to your surface areas and volumes. So I'll tell you what are all the problems you need not try. 15th need not, 16th need not, 17th yes. 15th need not, 16th need not. Similarly, 18th you need not try. 15, 16, 18 need not try. Other questions, yes, you can. Okay. So if there is any doubt, let me know, or else we can wind up the session. Just let me know in the chat box.
Clear, sir.
Here.
Sir,
Yeah, Harini, tell me.
sir, in the previous chapter, Rolle's law, in second question, they are given like finding whether the converse is possible or not. What is it?
Means, you see, converse means what? So whatever the statement is going, you have to prove it in the reverse way. So I'll tell you, see. So for example, this is the one you are asking, right? Converse of Rolle's theorem.
Yes.
We can say something about the converse from this theorem. So what does Rolle's theorem state? So continuity,
Yes, sir.
differentiability, and f of a is equal to f of b. Okay. So what we can say is, if suppose you are doing f dash of c equal to 0, let's say you are directly doing this step. Okay. So if you are doing f dash of c is equal to 0 and you are able to prove that f of a is equal to f of b, from this can you say that they are continuous and differentiable? Is what is the converse?
Oh.
Now you're going the reverse, that's it.
Okay.
Okay, that's it.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Anything else? Let's see. No doubts. Rahul A 10 centimeter. Yeah. No doubts. Clear. We cannot verify, sir. Should be continuous. Kailash, you need not, yeah. You need not prove that the function is continuous, because most of the times they'll give you only the functions which are already continuous. The polynomial functions by default are continuous. That's a universally known fact. You need not prove it. Slopes are okay. Okay, then we'll wind up. See you on next Tuesday. In the meanwhile, you practice all these problems. Okay. Let's see.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.